Mobile gaming could be truly immersive when you want it to. Although online games are the most addicting in that matter, but if you do prefer quality over just a quick fix, we have here today over 30 single-player offline games that you can actually play with a controller if you want to, on your Android and iOS. Let's go.
How does it feel to breathe when you dead? They never seen you out of your bed.
This apostate will be dealt with in the same manner as the one who inspired him.
Alright, to start things off looking good, number one, we have, well, first of all, it was actually a mobile game, then it was released into PCs later. Now, for those of you who missed it, Republic is a stealth-based action-adventure and a survival horror game with just a twist. What is that? You can see the world through the surveillance cameras as you control humans to do the things that you want for you. This is a free mobile game on mobiles and PCs. There's like 5 chapters it offers. A story that kind of requires you to listen carefully, really clever, really well designed, and it plays with the controller too.
She's on the move. I'm going after her.
Available on both stores for free. Number 2, we have another version of the old Bug Heroes here. It's just the same, an action strategy tower defense dope, plays offline for free. Actually rated a 4.9 out of 5 on the Play Store. In my opinion, it is the best version of Bug Heroes ever made. It has overhauled, fine-tuned graphics, fun, pretty easy to play, no annoying ads in general. It is one of the best additions to your library if you do enjoy tower defense games. Probably the best offline first-person shooter on the Play Store. Number 3, for those of you who have missed it, we have Combat Master Mobile. I kid you not. This game is made by an insane group of veterans who do know what they're doing when it comes to delivering a game. I couldn't really, for the life of me, figure out why this game doesn't even have force ads or anything. I do hope it stays that way, because it's literally the only game on the Play Store that is not a total BS. If you want legit AIs and a good offline shooter, Combat Master is the one you should go to. Released earlier this year, number 4, we have a fully free-to-play mobile exclusive new entry in the Hello Neighbor series called Nikki's Diaries. This game is actually rated a 5 out of 5, although you could play both the Nikki's Diary and the original Hello Neighbor. I do prefer the original game though. They're both free, play offline with a controller if you want to, and they've got to be a couple of absolute gems when it comes to stealth-based horror adventure games. They're realistic and hell as smooth as a mobile could be. As the most downloaded game in today's list, number 5, we've got over here with 100 million downloads, if not more, Asphalt 8 Car Racing. It's a totally free-to-play offline support, controller support, racing, realistic sim, definitely one of the most realistic games of all time, actually on both platforms. It's just a couple gigabytes of storage requirement. It is legitimately one of the best Asphalt games, in my opinion, ever made. However, it could though get a little greedy because for real cars, you gotta pay with literally blood or real money. Number 6, we have The Baby in Yellow. Baby in Yellow is a first-person horror adventure game. I'm pretty sure most of you have already played it, because I mentioned it before. However, for those of you who haven't, in this game you find yourself in a house with a pretty strange baby, and you'll be playing the role of a babysitter. It is without a doubt one of the first games I fell in love with in a second. It's creepy, super mighty in visuals, and for a mobile game, Baby in Yellow, it could be a tad short, but it's a free game, has been available for quite some time, and already downloaded over 50 million times.
The end of days is upon us.
Number 7, we have the Talos Principle. The second game in the series actually just came out into PCs last month, and if you haven't seen it before, the first game in the series is available now on mobiles, both Android and iOS, for $5 a piece. What Talos Principle is a first-person puzzle philosophical science fiction fantasy game, and maybe one of the few games that is a definite 10 out of 10 on every single critical website. Someone actually once said, puzzle games will never get better than this. Go figure. For those of you who have previously said that this game is not playable offline, just try it. It works. It could use local data and no use of Wi-Fi if you just waited a second at the beginning. Dead Effect 2, for those of you new, however, offers the most detailed and fine quality zombie shooting game we can think of right now. It is legitimately the equivalent of all Fear PC games, just all packed and compressed into a single mobile game with an even better story and shooting mechanics. There's one downside: this game's about 4 gigabytes in total. Purchased over 100,000 times since just months ago. Number 9, we have here Slaughter 2, 3, or even 1. It doesn't really matter because all games are about half $1 each if you win for the discount in the following days. See, Slaughters are legitimately some of the best action shooters on mobiles in quality. They've got gorgeous graphics and gameplay mechanics. All of these games are playable offline and all support controllers too. It's a classic series with a decent quality. Moving on to number 10, we have probably the crown jewel of all offline realistic racing sims, specifically if you are into Formula cars. Real Racing 3 is actually published by EA Games and has been fine-tuned and polished ever since 10 years ago. It features a pretty large collection of cars, has a nice little variety of modes to keep you engaged for quite a while. Overall, it boasts really high quality graphics, some of the best sound effects, a career mode, and even a multiplayer if you want it. Dadish series actually just received a new entry too, called Dadish 3D. It's another free-to-play game by these generous developers, which is, by the way, still in the making for PCs. Dadish 3D is a platform first 3D entry in the Dadish adventure games, of course. It has over 50 stages to play, a controller support, new characters, a new setting, and all of that actually playable offline too. Dadish 3D is right now on both the Google and the App Store and takes you no more than 400 megabytes in total. It's a free game. Available on Android and iOS. Number 12, we have Power Lost. The reason Power Lost is in the list here is this game was awarded many times. It is entirely playable offline in every region. In my opinion, it's a much better game than Diablo. It's an absolute banger in every conceivable way if you're looking for a good action RPG. What is crazy is that this game is actually coming from a solo developer. Some of it offers a higher in quality game than probably anything that Blizzard's ever made. We give this one a 100 out of 10 special recommendation. Moving on to number 13, we have Hungry Shark World, or Evolution. Not fundamentally an open world game, but it's a shark life sim. It's a single player game with a open world, free world component. You see, Hungry Shark is actually a Ubisoft original game too. It's one of the most well received and most downloaded mobile games of all time. Hungry Shark World, however, is actually a reimagined version of Hungry Shark Evolution, which we're talking about in the list. They both play offline and online with a controller. They're both about 300 megabytes apiece. 9.7 out of 10. Moving on to number 14, we have Death Park 2. Horror Clown. Technically the second game of its first-person survival series of games. It's set in a city with a clown who's just on a mission to spread panic. If you like carnivals or a little bit science fiction stories in your survival horror games like Silent Hill, Evil Nun, Granny, etc., Death Park is for you too. It's a super game. It's as thrilling as Michael Jackson, lots of jump scares. It has about 8 endings and so many good puzzles on top of the fact that it's the offline game that plays with the controller. coming from the same developers of Space Marshals. At number 15 we have Xenowork. Maybe, if not said in vain, it is actually an even more challenging and engaging top-down action shooter to another game we're going to mention today, the Space Marshal franchise. It's halfway an alien shooter and a dungeon crawler with really good graphics. Never heard of a bug with this game, and it's really smooth too. Perfectly balanced for anybody with a taste for shooters. Xenoworks actually does support controllers and is mainly an offline game.
I want to be the one to tell you how things.
Coming in at number 16 we have Implosion. First of all, as it might seem, this game is not a platformer, but it might as well just be a damn fine top-down brawler. Implosion was released roughly 8 years ago. Still, to this day, it remains as one of the best games ever made on mobiles. It's a totally free-to-play action RPG from developers who are actually really good at it. If you do like Diablo and you have already played Power Lost, which I mentioned earlier, or you could say prefer more hack and slashing, Implosion is definitely a good choice. It actually has a diesel punk aesthetic, is roughly about 2 gigabytes in size.
For centuries, the Great War raged across the Northlands.
In simple terms, if you have played Skyrim, Ravensword over here is like the mobile version of it. It has been around for over a decade now on Android and iOS, and is still one of the better action RPGs available right now. I say we couldn't really recommend you buying this game. Perhaps get a free demo somewhere, or maybe watch some gameplay on YouTube before going for the full thing, because it is a $7 game. But if you ever digged what you saw, just keep in mind this game is somewhere a mix of Skyrim, Oblivion, and Morrowind all together. It's an offline game, plays with a controller. At number 18, coming from Pixel Bites, as a series of just action shooter games that go back to more than half a century ago, we've got over here Space Marshals 3, which we talked about earlier. It's another offline and online tactical, stealth, and loot-based top-down shooter. It's a mobile exclusive, so to speak. It does feel like a console to mobile port that was just handled by a really good developer. So I don't know. You will definitely enjoy this game with touchscreen, but if you do have a controller around, you are gonna have a blast with it. This game is about 1 gigabyte in total.
That's Rachel Amber. Something happened to her.
Moving on to number 19, we have Life is Strange. Just a quick mention with Life is Strange over here. This game is free to play in the beginning for 1 chapter. The rest of it will take you down about $9, and if you do have a PC, I highly recommend giving the original game a shot. However, if you do have a beefy phone and can handle the 10 gigabytes of storage requirement, this is not only just a super mobile game, you will have the most engaging story with a mobile game compared to any other game by miles. Available on PCs since January, now finally on mobiles since a couple months ago. Number 20 we have SpongeBob. Of course, both battle for Bikini Bottom and also the Cosmic Shake, which is a rather decent sequel to the Battle for Bikini Bottom. It features new platforming skills, more options, bigger maps, new story, new songs, voiceovers, everything. The full game, however, each of them though are priced about $10. We do suggest you play the unofficial version of it, especially the first game. If you did enjoy the first one, officially buy the Cosmic Shake. It's a lot better.
Do your job, Sheriff, or we'll find someone who can.
Coming up at number 21, I have over here my favorite game in the list, The Wolf Among Us. Wolf Among Us is about the finest PC and mobile port, playable with a controller, and it takes you about 2 gigabytes of storage only. This is just like the previous game we mentioned, Life is Strange. It's free for just 1 chapter. The full game though takes you about $7. If you haven't played a Telltale game before, you might have heard somewhere that these games are rather gold in story and characters, and I'd have to agree 100%. It plays offline with a controller too. Definitely play it if you like comics. Coming up behind that at number 22, we've got the one and only award-winning mobile exclusive game Badlands. One of, if not the most beautifully made platformer of its own kind, and technically speaking the oldest game in the list today. In fact, this game was released over a decade ago, which is a miracle for such quality that plays free half the way. I mean, look, there is a reason that this game has been downloaded over 10 million times. It's an atmospheric side-scroller action-adventure platformer, plays with up to 4 other players if you want, also with a controller. So, I wouldn't really recommend you go even near this one, unless you have unlimited Wi-Fi, because downloading this game will take you 2 to 3 gigabytes of storage, and even then, it might not even load up on some devices, and that's why technically this game has such a low rating on the Play Store. However, if those 2 things are not a problem for you, don't even wait another minute to give this Lewis the game a shot. It's a superbly well-made game and is one of the best adventures you will ever play for free. Solid 9 out of 10. But coming in at number 24, we have Off-Road Legends 2, which is also one of the oldest off-road games we've ever talked about in this channel, and for only one reason. That is, it's a really good game. Rarely games that are over a few years old remain in check, and Off-Road Legends we're proud to announce is one of the top 5 in that small list that still gets updates. It's a stunt driving game, but obviously the graphics are much better than its trailer over here. It's free even for the most premium stuff. You can play it offline too. Speaking of gems, right? Katana Zero did get a mobile release earlier in the month. It's sitting on both the Google App Store via the Netflix membership for free. Now, there is many games that you could play for free via the Netflix membership, such as the Teenage Mutants. I mean, like over 20 games that all play offline. I've only mentioned Katana Zero here in the list because it has to be one of the best pixel art action platformers, if not the best that you could ever play, have a blast with on the go. The game has no bugs, controller support, it plays offline, it has a brutal gameplay on top of an unreal story. With a 4.8 rating out of 5, almost 1 million downloads on the Play Store in case you missed it. Although it's an old game, but it remains an updated gem to this very day. Number 26, we have Super Tux Card, just a quick mention with this one too. This game's a classic 3D open world arcade card. I mean, technically it's not an open world, but it open-ended, in which you can drive through almost anything on the water, in the jungles, in stadium. It's a free game, plays offline. It's just 150 megabytes in total. Why not? So, maybe not one of the best games we have ever talked about, but to this very day, The Moose Man is one of the absolute best puzzle platform adventure games we've ever played. And somehow, it is actually the only work of its developers. If you missed it, this game is a Finneyu Greek based off a story long time ago where the world was created out of an eggshell by a god named Yin. It's pretty unique, it's free, works with the controller, and you can play it offline too. Why not?
He's fast, fearless, has special abilities, and sticks to the wall with his tongue?
Alright, this one right over here is possibly the smoothest game you will ever play. Although it's only free in the list, the first 2 chapters, the rest is paid. Super Mumble Quest is a precision-based action platform arcade Metroidvania adventure with a ton of collectibles and a huge world to explore before you reach the end of anything. Mumble Quest gets a 20 out of 10 from me personally. I would play it over any other pixel art game on this, the Katana Zero. The music, art, graphics, I don't even know why it's a free game for a minute.
Challenges! And you can play however you like.
Guns of Dawn, on the other hand, is sort of a mix of arena shooters and a little bit of Red Dead. I mean, the old one, literally the first Red Dead game, not Redemption either, which, if you want to remember, it was a co-op arena-style shooter too. Guns of Dawn is pretty much that, but for phones with a very similar formula, and I can say it's pretty safe to assume the most fun you will have on your cell phone with a friend if you decided to play it online. The whole thing is about 600 megabytes in total. Moving on to number 30, we have Labyrinth Legend. This game is also one of the few hidden gems that really fits into every single category of mobile games. Whether you want something fresh, something old, an RPG, or something with a decent story, it's all sitting on this game's page, and it's all for free too, all the way offline. It's fun, easy at first, it gets progressively harder, but it doesn't have a, say, unforgiving challenge. The whole thing is just 100 megabytes, why not give it a shot? And last but not least, on our way out, we'd like to give a quick shout out for the few of you who haven't already played Vampire Survivors. It's a free game, it plays entirely offline, and is still one of the best games you can have hands on for long replay. Hell, it is actually the most addicting game in the list. So, for whatever reason, if you didn't like all of the games we've talked about today, or say none of them really works for you, this one definitely will. It's a bullet hell roguelike action casual classic, released over 20 years ago, now remastered in every way. Thanks for watching.